Well, you have already said that yesterday's incident reminds us that no one is safe, not even children in schools.
Yeah, absolutely. The news coming to us yesterday, I think, should be a wake-up call for everybody in Trinidad and Tobago. I mean, the reports coming through are that people who have set themselves up are waiting at times in front of a school. And there was no thought as to who else may be harmed in the cross-section. We have the reports of a 4-year-old being injured. And I mean, we have been plagued with violence as a society for quite some time. And we have seen the headlines of, bloody weekends, murderous weekends, etc. We've even had shootings nearby schools already. But this idea of a targeted hit to be orchestrated right next to a school or awaiting someone dropping off their child to school, I think this is a reality that our nation, we cannot let this chance slip away for us to say we must take Trinidad and Tobago back. We cannot live in fear of dropping our children off to school. That is unacceptable. And we need deliberate, decisive action. And we really need to show the small percentage of criminals in Trinidad and Tobago that Trinidad and Tobago belongs to the law-abiding citizens of this country. We are in charge here, and we need to really take back control of our country.
Yeah, but MP, how do we do that? I mean, we have seen situations in the past where in some situations we have even seen where children have been killed, babies have been killed, toddlers have been killed. So then the question is, what more can we do to take back our country? Because we have heard prime ministers condemn such attacks. We have seen in Trinidad and Tobago over the years where we have changed ministers of national security. We have changed police commissioners. We have had very strong statements from everyone, the opposition, the prime minister, the police. But it seems that, I don't know that things have improved at all.
Absolutely. And this is where we must make really targeted interventions. As with everything we do, short-term planning, medium-term planning, long-term planning. In the short term, you need boots on the ground. You have to ensure that you have a well-resourced, effective Trinidad and Tobago police service. And so that in that first instance, we need boots on the ground. While we're dealing with the medium term, what we're looking at with the crime situation, how our judiciary is functioning. Right now, there seems to be no consequence to criminal activity, that maybe you'll be arrested, but it takes so long to go through the judicial system. Whether or not you're out on bail, it's just no consequences. Our conviction rate remains abysmal because it just takes too long to get into the system. So there's no fear from criminals about engaging in criminal activity, because what will happen to you? And so until we get to a point of facing strict, harsh consequences for criminal activity, and this goes beyond things about bail and whether or not you will be out on bail. It is, can you be convicted of a crime, serve the time for the crime that you've committed, and then we'll start to see the results. Again, in the short term, we need a well-resourced police service. We need intelligence-led policing. We need, in this instance as well, more boots on the ground so that citizens can feel the impact of the TTPS in the short term, while we work on the medium and long term, which is securing convictions and ensuring that there are consequences for actions in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah, but does this also say something about us when it comes to our mentality? Because, as you know, MP, over the years, billions of dollars have been expended in the area of national security, on equipment, whether it's resources for the police and so on. But you think that enough time has been spent on trying to reform people who are engaged in such activity?
I know the thing is, we will engage in our budget debate come September 30th. And again, we will look at money and whether or not, we look at our financial resources. But time and time again, as with many other sectors, we are seeing that it may not necessarily be a resource problem, but a management problem, that we are putting money but we're not monitoring and evaluating the effectiveness of the billions of dollars that we've spent. And so until Trinidad and Tobago can see the effects, feel the effects of the billions of dollars that's going into national security, that's going into education, that's going into health, we are always going to be in this cycle. I mean, even when you look at, we talk about the mentality of citizens, why I said, we've been plagued with violent crime, but I felt the need to send out a release because I genuinely believe this has to be a wake-up call for our nation. We are talking about criminals knowing that is a school, looking for a target that is dropping off their child to school, setting yourself up, and without any regard for the dignity of human life, you would, engage in that kind of gun violence. I think we've gone beyond the point of just trying for us to say, okay, we have to try something new, but we have to look at what we are spending our money on, what we have been doing for the past few years, what is working, keep it, what is not working, get rid of it, and start doing something so that citizens can feel the effects. I mean, I was on my way to the office here this morning for this interview to just get a message that a well-known personality in Gasparillo, person who sells pineapple and chow at the corner near the highway, was murdered last night. I mean, this is we cannot become desensitized. This is human life. These are real people with families, people who are now the entire school population there in Malik. Can you imagine what it's like to get ready to go to school tomorrow and next week? I mean, it really is time for all of us, every citizen, to take a look at what we can do as individuals, but most importantly, to hold those in the executive to account, to say management is an issue here. Things need to get done, and we need to have accurate and effective reporting in terms of where our money is being spent.
Yeah, let's look a little bit at the police's response, because up to yesterday, you had DCP Benjamin, and he was saying, well, let me just tell you what he would have said. First of all, it is really sad to know we have this sort of brazen things taking place, and in the end we find innocent people being affected. That's according to Deputy Commissioner of Police Operations Junior Benjamin during a walkabout yesterday. But what we have been hearing from the police from time immemorial, that hey, here's what we are going to have: joint patrols. There is going to be a more consistent approach when it comes to these patrols and the presence of police on the nation's highways and byways. But I think the data will show you, MP, and I'm sure to our viewers, that the results that the police want, or the results that the citizens want, the results that the government want, we have not gotten them, even in spite of the police putting up a strong position, a strong face, and saying, look, the situation is not out of control and we are dealing with this.
I mean, that question of whether or not we're out of control, I think, has gone out the window. But again, where I started, you have to examine the effectiveness of the policies. So if you are consistently announcing joint patrols, etc., and that has not been effective or as effective, then you know that cannot be the announcement. Or if you found it to be effective, if from the data the police service has, where they put up joint patrols or where they have static patrols, you've seen the incidents of crime go down, well then implement it nationwide. And so again, it is about using the data that you have, not to create any false sense of security, but to utilize the data at the police level to implement effective policies. So where you see things are working, if you know the joint patrol is working, then write to the cabinet, utilize your funding and expand the joint patrols. If you know it's not working, then don't do that. If you know you needed more persons in certain areas, well then do that, because they are the ones with the data. And my approach in this budget debate will not just be an examination of the financial resources, but a clear examination on whether or not there's any evaluation by the government as to where money is being spent. Because if you are not using money, the financial resources of the country, to find targeted solutions to the problems that we're facing, then you're wasting everybody's time.
Yeah. Yesterday, following the incident a few things happened and a few people responded and sent out statements. One of them was the opposition leader. She said that Trinidad and Tobago is a danger zone, and she yesterday called on Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley to lead the National Security Ministry. And also you had Chaguanas West MP Dinesh Rambali yesterday urged Rowley and Prasad Bisesas to set aside their egos and unite in the crime fight. MP, is this going to be, you think this is going to have, if something like this happens, these calls come to fruition, can they work? Will they be beneficial?
Look, we are on the cusp of an election year in 2025. But more importantly, I think for Trinidad and Tobago, what we need to look, especially over the next year, look over is what is being offered to us as citizens. We know what the problems are. We understand that we have a rampant and, dare I think, out of control crime situation. We have issues in the health sector. We have issues in the education sector. We have issues that require a level of maturity, a level of decisiveness, and dare I say as well, a level that requires some bipartisan approach to the solutions to the problems facing Trinidad and Tobago. And how we get there is by the citizens of this country saying, these are the things that we need, and having the politics respond to the citizens as opposed to citizens responding to the politics that's going on right now. And that's the only way we'll move forward, you know. And again, like I said, this incident that occurred yesterday must serve as a wake-up call to the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. It ought not to be business as usual today because, you know, yesterday was one school. What stops it from being another school, another space, another safe space? I mean, we are losing our safe spaces in Trinidad. There was a point in time when we could discuss what was a hotspot, and if you avoided a hotspot, maybe you'll be safe. But if the entirety of the country is becoming a hotspot, then we have to realize that now is the time for action. Now is the time for citizens to say, listen, these are the things that we need, and we need it now, and this is how we can get it done. Mm-hmm. And I think that is where really need to be going over the next year and the next decade, because it's not going to take, you know, this problem wasn't created over the last 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. This was a problem that has been growing. And so therefore, it's not going to be solved in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. It needs deliberate action over time. We did not get here overnight. We will not solve the problem overnight. You know, even in my release, I spoke about utilizing the curriculum, and I will continue to raise this. Introducing things like conflict resolution, anger management, etc. The key to the next generation is in the schools right now. Right now, you have an opportunity to teach students a different way, a way to engage, you know, in civic duty, national pride, in a way that we can change the next generation. But instead of doing that, they are exposed to, you know, levels of violence that are unprecedented. We are in a space where if we do not take action now, we will lose Trinidad and Tobago.
You know, as you speak here, I am reminded of an occurrence that happened a few days ago. And I was in the company of a young child, and there was some explosion. And that young child said to me, "What is that? A gunshot?" And I was thinking to myself, when I was growing up, that wasn't a part of the experience of being a child. That wasn't a part of my vocabulary. And I think that you did allude to the fact earlier that some of us have become very desensitized as to what we are seeing. So when incidents do happen, the first thing people do now is to take a picture or take a video and put it up on social media, because it has become an everyday occurrence or every other day occurrence or a weekly occurrence. What more do you think, MP? Because I know that the police have been calling on members of the public to, if you see something, say something. What sort of responsibility we as citizens have?
I mean, the question of see something, say something is really based on trust and whether or not we trust our institutions to protect us. And, getting together to do the work. Within my own community, I know the TTPS holds their regular community meetings. They are in touch with the community council so that there is that sense of trust within the police service. And how you implement that across the board, you get, citizen watch groups, you have the WhatsApp groups. I'm a member of several WhatsApp groups across my constituency where persons give information about, strange activity, where an incident occurs, people are looking out for vehicles. So we do have that kind of collaboration. But again, where we'll see that trust increase is where people get the sense that if you do a crime in Trinidad and Tobago, you will face consequences for your action, that there will be justice for the victims, that there will be some sense that criminal activity does not go unattended to. And so, we hear about murders, like you said, every day, every other day, but we don't hear an equal number of convictions. And I don't expect that to be within 1 week or 2 weeks, but within a reasonable time frame. If you are hearing persons arrested, charged, going through the court system, convicted, people will understand that Trinidad and Tobago is not a safe haven for criminals. And until we get there, citizens will continue to live in fear.
Yeah. Is there a greater role, you think, for judicial officers in this fight against crime? I know that the Prime Minister recently at Independence Day function, he spoke about that. In the past, he spoke about it. The Minister of National Security would have spoken about that. In the past, the police continue to speak about that they would arrest someone, charge someone, and by afternoon or evening, that person is outside. Is there a greater role for judicial officers?
But there is a role certainly to ensure that cases can be processed throughout our judicial system in a timely fashion, so that you aren't rushing through the process, so that you are innocent until proven guilty. However, that there is a reasonable time frame that we can go through. We have matters being adjourned, cases taking 10 years, 15 years. That is unacceptable. That is unacceptable on all levels. And so in that regard, we really do have to take a look at how quickly our case management system is going, that we are getting persons through the judicial system so that justice can be served one way or another.
Yeah. MP, anything else you'd like to tell us this morning before you leave us?
I just would like to end where I began. We cannot continue with business as usual. Trinidad and Tobago, this is a wake-up call for us. We cannot allow criminal activity to encroach on all of our safe spaces. And as we go about our lives today, please continue to be safe, and let us all think about what we can do to make Trinidad and Tobago a safe space again.